Let's call the meeting to order for our Board of Directors regular meeting of Thursday, September 18th, GCSD at 7 o'clock on the dot. And roll call.
All right, Director Allen.
Present.
Director Bowles. Here. Director Fowler. Here. Director Randall.
Here.
Director Martin. Here. Also in attendance is Assistant General Manager Hope Atmore, Legal Counsel Bill Parkin, and General Manager Chuck Duffy is on his way and should be joining us within about a half hour.
All right, so let's start with general public participation. So as a reminder, public members may comment on matters under the jurisdiction of the district that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. So we will be timing those, and that is true for both those by Zoom and by in the room. We'll start with folks in the room and then we'll go to Zoom.
Just really quickly, I wanted to say that Matt was gracious enough to listen to this time, you know, to me about his background, wanting to congratulate you all. But I think it's a wonderful pick. Not trying to embarrass you, Matt. One of the things Matt said to me is that he wondered, what he was bringing to the table. He knew that he was passionate about community and that he's been here for a long time. And I was just very mindful to remind him that that is the most important thing, caring for your community and wanting to just show up and have your voice heard and like carry the voices of others. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Supportive ones.
Very nice. Are there,
just if the temperature is comfortable in here and you're comfortable with the air, that adds a lot of noise behind you. So you can close the windows at any time.
okay. Anyone else? I think we have anyone on Zoom. Okay. Then let's move on to the regular meeting agenda. The first will be a presentation by Supervisor Mueller on the El Granada medians.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Well, wait, we need more sound.
Can you hear me?
Well, we can't hear you.
We have a technical issue.
Okay. I should probably keep speaking so you can hear me, right?
He can hear him through your computer.
I don't know what to do. I know the computer's working on my end.
Should do.
Say something.
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry.
Faint.
There's nothing more I can do on my side. I know my computer's working.
We can just barely hear you, so they're working on it on our end.
Okay.
Mine for laptop.
Trying to switch over.
Just make sure the TV's plugged into your laptop. I made that mistake a custom.
But which laptop was he hearing on? The one over there. So. So many. Oh, can we hear you? Can you hear us? Say something.
Hello. Hi.
There you go. Yay.
All right.
All right.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. Thank you for just having me on the agenda. I really come tonight just with an offer to you all to see if you want to empower your professional staff to explore a concept with the county. So since I took office, and actually before I took office, and was meeting with residents in El Granada, one of the issues that always comes up is the medians. And for residents, it's incredibly frustrating because I understand well how surprising it might be to move into a home and then be told that you're responsible to maintain the median across the street from you. And from a county supervisor perspective, it's frustrating as well to see to be in this position where you want to help residents with these medians, but the county's position, longstanding position, has been that the county doesn't own those medians. That they were actually that when El Granada was constructed, those were actually part of the parcels, and then there was a right of way for traffic to go through, but those parcels remain in their original construction. And so what the idea that I've explored with the county, the concept would be the idea that the county would figure out a way that we could take possession of them. And the easiest way that we could figure out to take possession of them would be through eminent domain. But the issue that we have in that is that the county doesn't really want to have to pay for these things. And so the way that we've, in concept, have thought about this is that we would go to each median and then go to all the homes surrounding the medians. And if all the homes surrounding the median agreed that they didn't want to possess these medians anymore and agreed with the county that they were going to give them up, that then we would take eminent domain with them at no cost. And then the question, and that would only happen in the circumstance all of the homes around that said they had no desire for an economic value or payment for them. Now, that being the case, the question becomes what happens to the median then after someone finally takes control, because what we're trying to solve for this issue is that there are no longer orphan medians, which is really the way it kind of feels right now. No one takes really possession of them. And so the question becomes, should the county be in control of them? And to me, that seems a little foreign because I'm the only official elected at the county by residents in El Granada. And so to ask the county board to really decide the future of those medians creates a situation where you could imagine 3 county supervisors deciding they want to do something with them who aren't even elected at all by residents in El Granada. And so from a representative standpoint, it really feels like it would be great to pass those medians to a body elected by the residents to decide what to do with them and how they should be maintained. And I know, and so the obvious choice, excuse me, just getting over COVID, the obvious choice would be to pass it all to you. But I know that comes with difficulty in that obviously there's a cost for maintaining them. And that really is the discussion that I'd like to offer you. Number one, I'd like to offer this concept for you to all to consider and certainly discuss with the community. But then the second point is then to authorize your professional staff to have a discussion with county staff in terms of what maintenance might look like in the future, how you would all want that. In concept, what the county's talked about is we would pass them to you, and then we would basically, before we pass them, clean them up as you directed. They'd be cleaned up in the passing of them. What's unclear and not agreed to by anyone is what maintenance looks like going forward. And that would be something that would have to be talked about, obviously, between the county and the district. But I don't expect that this process won't be without some level of controversy, because every public process has it. And I know we're all sort of reticent of every time that happening, but I do think it's worth engaging in the conversation, at least to try, because what we have right now are really just orphan medians that only get dealt with when they pose a problem. And I don't think that's the way we should approach public policy for residents. So if it's a conversation you'd like to have with us, we'd love to have it with you. The outcome certainly isn't guaranteed, but at least we're trying.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Miller. When we spoke a couple months ago about this, I was deeply intrigued. So I'm glad we were able to get some time on our agenda. Curious from the board, questions or thoughts, any reaction to what's been shared?
I've always wondered about the meetings. I don't have one directly across from my home, but there's one like two houses down, and every once in a while, the the grass and the weeds are, like knee high. And I've never really known who was responsible for that. And so if it is in fact the homeowners that surround it, I haven't heard that before. So that's very interesting. And it does get cut eventually, but it could also, there's fire hazard and there's all sorts of things that, people are very concerned about. So I think discussing it would be a good idea.
Excellent. Yeah. Hi, Supervisor Mueller. Actually, I want to say first, I think the homeowners would generally, from the feedback we've had from them when we've considered doing something recreation-wise on the medians, they would jump at the chance to give them up because they can't get liability. Their homeowners insurance only extends as far as their sidewalk. And so they always have been concerned that something happens on the median, and if they own land underneath it, they would be liable for it. We've talked about this, so I'm not going to surprise you, but I have an idea. I can't pass up an opportunity because we haven't really done it since 2022, and we have several new people on the board. And for anybody who's thinking this is something we could do, we did a projection shortly after we acquired the Picasso property, because there was another property for sale, and before we bought another thing, I in particular said, I'm not signing off on anything else until I know we can afford what we've already promised. So just for those, because we always have to explain it, I guess the special thing about a special district is its limitations. So it's only allowed to do what it's allowed to do. And if it has an enterprise service like sewers, we can charge a service fee for that. But other than that, we get an allocation of a fraction of 1% of the property tax for the district, which is currently with the ERAFI fund running about 1.4 million a year. We did an analysis in 2022, I have to say for Chuck's benefit, very preliminary, very draft, very back of the envelope, and started out that with that funding, we could finance about 10 to 12 million, which won't pay for the entire plan as we've envisioned it. We would need significant grant money on top of that. But that would tie up 50+% of our funds for 20 years, just paying back that financing. And one of the things when we did our multiple surveys that residents were concerned about was that we are able to maintain whatever it is we build. So we don't build it and then it becomes an eyesore. So the other half, in the way this draft projection worked, would pay for our staff and pay for maintenance on both the park and the rec center. But what it convinced me of at that time, I think most of the board at that time, was as grand as we went with all of our plans and ideas, we can afford to do this one thing well with the funding we have. I know I had a little chat with Supervisor Mueller. The medians actually, this is 7 acres that we have. The medians are many, many, many more acres. To maintain, Public Works actually does the mowing, I think just for fire suppression. And if a tree falls on the road, they come and take it out. But they really do the bare minimum. We don't have the funding now for that. And so my only concern, and I'm quite open to the staff having a conversation with county about it, is any funding that comes with it can't really be a one-off. It has to be in perpetuity. So my idea is, I don't know where in the county the allocation to special districts of property tax is set or what kind of formula they use. We get a fraction of 1%. But if the medians could come with a significant enough change in our allocation, which then becomes funding in perpetuity, then I think having them under local control, generally is a good idea. But I don't want it to come from anybody who lives near a median thinks that they're not being kept up by the county to anybody who lives near a median thinking they're not being kept up by us because we don't have the resources to do it. We don't have Public Works. We don't have any other buckets of money, we can reach a hand into. We only have the 1.4 million a year we get. But I'm happy for the conversation to happen and for more exploration to happen.
Thank you. Any other comments from the bench?
I have comments. I appreciate the thought that went into bringing the decision-making for this to the local residents and not having, like you said, Ray, unelected supervisors at the county level deciding what's going on street by street in our town. So thank you. Sounds like right now the residents are personally liable for anything that happens on those medians. So I know if it was me, I would look at it as a good opportunity to relieve myself of that liability. So I'm anticipating the residents being open to the suggestion. And one of the questions that I have is, you said if all the residents agree to give up their ownership and grant it to you free of charge through eminent domain. I lost my train of thought. Oh, if it has to be unanimous, are we talking the entire street or block by block?
Median by median.
What is it?
Or median by median.
So each one is the length of a block.
Yeah, just adding on to what you're saying, yeah.
Have you made any decisions about how the residents would agree and what percentage would have to go along with it? Like if 99 of the residents in an area said yes, and one was a holdout, would that prevent it from happening?
You're muted. You're muted.
Hearing you.
No, he's muted.
He's muted.
Oh, thank goodness it finally came back. So unfortunately, in discussing it right now with the county, their preference is that basically everyone who has an ownership interest in that median would have to agree.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, unfortunately, you could get into a situation where there'll be a couple holdouts on the street, and that would hold up the median being transferred over.
But if you were to go a block down and all of those residents agreed, that median would be turned over?
Yeah. If we, assuming that so for the county to do this, it's going to be we're going to want to enter into an MOU with the district. And so right now this would be, the first phase would be an exploratory phase to have the county officials and the professional staff meet with the district professional staff to sort of iron out the MOU. And then we would go median by median to the homeowners. And then assuming all the homeowners around a median agreed, we would then go through the process set forth through the MOU to take it, do whatever we've been instructed by the district to do to that median, and then transfer it over.
Dr. Dodd, do you want to?
Hi, Ray. Thanks
Hi.
for coming.
No, my pleasure.
People who talked to you about this issue when you and I first met, and it was an alive issue at the time and still remains somewhat of an issue. I do want to just put on the table the fact that our attorneys have issued an opinion that says that these properties are owned by the county and not by the adjacent residents, and that the local historian who's done a lot of research in this has a document that points that out. I know you're not going to budge on that, and neither are your attorneys, but I do think that's an important factor as well.
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, the county attorneys and the county planning staff and everybody say the opposite. So it just is
I'm
what it
just
is.
saying, I wanted to put it on the table. I'm not prepared to argue it right now, but it is true that our people don't agree with that interpretation. Having said that, I've always thought that the median should be the responsibility of GCSD. I mean, we're the open space and parks people for this community. I completely agree with Nancy's analysis. And this is when this came up, I said, yeah, I'd love to take these medians, but not right now. That we have to get the park built. It's going to be to do the right thing, which we could do. That's the exciting part, is if we had these medians, we could work with the community. I know the community doesn't want a lot on the medians. We had an early experience where we learned that people are not interested in big changes to the medians, but I can envision some nice walking trails, some habitat restoration, some beautiful low trees, the way that Daniel Brennan wanted low trees, not tall trees, on the medians and make them more beautiful and an asset to the community. But we have to focus right now on getting this perfect. And I think that's where I come down. But Ray, I love the way you're always thinking about this stuff and trying to solve problems. I think you're a great supervisor and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And to be clear to you all too, if you decide tonight you don't want to pursue it right now, that's totally fine. I just wanted to bring an option for you all to consider.
Yeah. Ray, just have a quick question. The medians are either 5 streets or they are 22 parcels, depending on how you look at it. So I think, maybe the county should be clear on whether you look at it as the Avenue Cabrillo medians or the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 parcels that are separate medians with streets in between them. So, because you could end up with a very funny patchwork of, I don't think there actually, well, I guess there are. I was just looking to see if there are any that don't have any houses around them, but I think they all have at least a couple houses around them. So that's just one thought. The other one is I'd like actually staff to have a conversation about it now because it's in the community now. And so I'd like them to just evaluate whether it's even feasible for the district, whether there is any opportunity for $1 million a year in perpetuity to manage them and keep them beautiful. And because that's important before we let it, trail out. The community, I think it's come up at MCC. So I think the community would want to have an answer on that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think I hear your concern and I register it, I think, but it sort of has an assumption, again, that we would be on the hooks to do a lot of things, whereas the concept that's being presented as of right now is they would be doing the heavy lifting on getting the medians to where the community wanted them, right? So if it were low trees and trails and those kinds of things, that's what the community or the county is saying they would actually do to the medians and get them to that state for us.
Is that what?
Yeah.
So what the county's discussed is that the county, basically you could work out through the MOU what you wanted to be done for them on a one-time basis. We would get them in that shape. I know that there's talk about ongoing maintenance, and I don't know. I mean, it's a discussion that I think would have to be talked about between professional staff and the county staff to see what the county would be willing to do on an ongoing basis. But right now, the concept they've talked about is we'll go ahead per the instruction of the district and get them in shape to transfer. So it may be, and look, it may be that the district meets with the county and they just decided that, right what the district wants, the county thinks is too much or vice versa. But it's, you never know until you have the conversation. And it may, the residents may decide they don't want it. I don't know. But it just, again, it's a problem. It drives me crazy when there's just problems sitting there and we're not trying to address them. So.
Quick question about the budget for the one-time service before the county would turn it over to Granada. What's the budget looking like for that?
I think that's going to be discussed in the MOU. So I think I think it's just something to sit down in the MOU, similar to what was talked about with, how many parcels it truly is and all of that. All of those details would be set forth in the MOU. And so what I think what would end up, what I expect will happen is the county will sit down, the attorneys will sit down, and both sides will iron out all the details of the MOU, how much money would be allocated to do the cleanup, et cetera. If the district pushed and said, well, we want this much for ongoing maintenance, the county would either say, professional staff would either recommend yes or no and how much. Keeping in mind too, I do have to get votes from my board to approve all of this, as well as yours. So, but just getting both parties together to discuss that and try to figure it out. I don't see how that can hurt.
So I think it's safe to say at this point that everything that's known to date has been shared by you. We don't, this is all the information we have. So the sort of question.
I have nothing more.
Yeah, so the sort of question for the board is whether or not we want to actually just ask the staff to start having some exploratory conversations, right?
I see no reason not to have further conversation. I'm totally in favor of further conversation.
Do we, before, I thought we need to vote on that as a point?
Do we need to make a motion to
We
authorize
make a motion
staff to
to
follow
authorize-
on this conversation?
I don't think so, do you?
No, we just say it. Okay,
Just direct us to
great.
Do it.
do it.
Do we need to open, just one second. Do we need to open for public comment? Okay, so before we close it, I just want to open it for public comment. So people in the room, you want to say something?
Yes, please. So I'm really here tonight on behalf of Coastside Allies, who has to date garnered over 1,300 signatures from community members. I can't really parse out what amount is from El Granada, but I know I specifically knocked on over 400 doors in El Granada. The medians are way more than just budget. I think the nuanced conversations need to happen with you, but I think GCSD is in a very real way poised to extend its leadership proven through the actions you've taken with the GCSD Community Center, working with the community. Coastside Allies would really like to offer any assistance. We have now talked to Mila with Manzanita Project. We have been in discussions with Nicholas at the county, and there are 3 medians just across from the post office that have 6 trees on it. Manzanita and I talked about what if we were able to create a pilot program to beautify those medians, take out the rest of those trees, beautify them, have Nicholas, provide us the guidance and support in terms of what's native, capping the tree height at a certain height, and getting you a general cost of what that looks like for ongoing maintenance, because I know that's a budgetary consideration. Not only is it of keen interest to members of this community for reasons like insurance and fire safety, but the rebeautification of those medians is, I think, paramount to this process. We live in an amazingly gorgeous community. It would be a shame to see something just be barren there. So what we would like to offer to you is if it goes through Parks and Rec, and Nicholas is at least preliminarily in favor of this, if we can create a pilot program, I think it's a big coup for you, because we wouldn't be doing the pilot program just in terms of rebeautification, but what does it look like to have a fire safe median? What does it look like to have a median that is not going to cause your insurance to go away? So in partnership with you, I think we could create a scenario where you can have a lot of baseline information to then recreate. And I not only think it's a way to recreate it on other medians, because there's going to be some with denser growth, but I think that this is something that the county, Ray's office and Nicholas' office could share with other cities and counties that are also facing really scary ideas about fires in their community. So again, I just think that GCSD has proven itself in terms of being a leader of this community and being able to reach out and garner access from community members. I think that you would be perfectly fitted for this concept that Ray has outlined if the budget was there, if all of those pieces lined up. So I'm very much in favor of you guys having these discussions, and at any time Hope knows how to reach me. I can get you those signatures. I know there's 400 individuals who have signed on to say that GCSD would be a perfect fit for this right now. And I know that you guys can walk and chew gum at the same time. So
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments in the room? Any other comments online? All right, so
I have one additional. I do think that the fire protection issue is really important. And I know that Kevin has done a really great job of rallying the community to think about ways to deal with that. And so I think that is a major factor in all this. So again, I encourage further conversations and trying to figure out a way that we could make it work for everyone.
So Hope, good to know. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Supervisor Mueller, for taking the time, especially when you've been under the weather.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thanks for you.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, so with that, we'll move on to our next agenda item, recreation activities.
Okay, in your memo, you'll see there's a list of activities coming up. Starting just next week, we've got a first library activity happening here with gem painting. And then we have another sound bath workshop, birding walk, ecology recycling event. And I did wanted to follow up with Director Marsh about this, who asked at the last meeting about the one car policy. So I did talk to staff at Recology, and they have agreed that they will try to kind of do it on a case by case basis. The reason that they have that policy in place is because they want to make sure they don't run out of space in the trucks before noon.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to see somebody come in with a truckload, then go back and reload it and come back over and over again. So that's why they do it. But we had a conversation about, it's not very fair to people with small cars. So they're going to try to keep that in mind as people come in. Angel is the person that most people check in with. He's usually the one there. So, if you were to pull up in your small car and say, my partner's right behind me, and this is all, these are the cars we have, he's going to let you come through. So, but that's also just an opportunity to remind everybody that you can also take items to Pacifica, to the yard there anytime. And also that you have 4 pickups per year. Our ecology customers have 4 pickups per year, so you can special those. They don't carry we don't have time advanced etc. So if you're looking for some stuff. We also children in the road piece, so I have some references. This will be $10. So we have children.
I just have a question on the new class that's being added, the yoga for inner peace. Is that an hour or? What does it mean, yoga for inner peace?
It's so teaching the thing, it's not just the process.
I didn't know it's that easy to get in.
I was talking to someone about recreation programs, and I wondered if there might be some value to getting a community recreation committee that met quarterly or something, because I think there's a lot of people in this community who might be interested in doing programs. I know, and one of our goals is to have the community engaged in what we're doing. So we've had the Parks Advisory Committee. Still don't think right now at the state where the park plans are that we're ready to start that up again. But I was thinking maybe have a group of community members who are interested in various, aspects of programs for the community that talk about what we could do, and they could be helpful. So just wanted to put that out there. I don't know if other people think it'd be a good idea, but I like having the community more involved in what we're doing.
I'd definitely be open to that. The last newsletter I sent out, I did include a little blurb, if you have ideas, please contact me, because, we're always open to more ideas, but it's a matter of finding people who are able and willing to teach classes.
Yesterday when we met for the ad hoc committee, the 3 of us, we talked about this. I just want to say it publicly too, that I just want to appreciate just looking at this page of all of the things that you have put together, both directly for this office, but then also how you've also connected all of the different things that are happening around the community as well, and bringing awareness here, social media, different ways, using this space in new ways. It really just feels so different from when I first joined this board. And I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you. Yeah.
And I just have one more comment, which I just want to say congratulations on getting the skate ramp fixed. I think we should all be very pleased with that. This is like our signature community contribution. And it's great that it's gotten fixed. I was talking to the people who are doing it, and they're just so engaged in it. And it was just such a pleasure to see that it's happening. Is it open again?
Oh, yeah, it's fully open. People are down there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's been pretty wet in the mornings, so I think I'm gonna have to buy a new district broom to install down there, because when it's kind of puddled in the morning or when there's dust, like they like to be able to sweep it off so that you get a better ride. So I will buy a district broom there.
GCSD room.
Great idea.
A better ride. Look at you. A better ride. I don't know if that's rolling though or not. I have no idea.
Are there any other comments from the board before there's a community comment? All right, sure.
So again, with Coastside Allies, I wanted to thank Hope for taking some time to meet with me about this idea. I'm just going to give a very soft plug because I've asked to be agendized for a future meeting. But there are many different stakeholders that are very excited about this concept of partnering with GCSD to do a 10 days before Christmas event. I've already gotten the Harbor District to say yes to giving us the parcel next to the post office. I want to do a tree lighting. We want to do skating Santas. We want to do cookie decorating, caroling. Yes, we actually have members of the community who do a lot of the film stuff around the community that would like to do a presentation of Elf and do a lot of like family-based activities. So Side Allies thinks that a partnership between us, GCSD, and the other stakeholders who provide those services, we would do all the fundraising for you. So if you guys wanted to match anything, that would be gracious. And I think this time in our lives, this time in politics and just like where we are at in the world today, I think this would be a very good, poignant year to do something to bring our community together and remind each other that we're all neighbors and that we're all in this together. And I think it would be really amazing to have a GCSD stamped event that is fostering community and well wishes and merriment during the festive holidays. So I will be back, I think in October is when I've asked for time. Also, if anybody is interested from this group, and maybe you can have an internal conversation, we are in conversations about doing a town hall with Nicholas and with Manzanita about fire safety. Something about the history of fire safety, where we're at, where we're going, where we need to be, to really get a sense of what needs to happen, not just on the medians, but on the fire breaks in Quarry Park and some of the residual fuel that has been left behind when some of the trees have been cut down over the years. So I think that just considering what was presented to you today as a concept, I know it's a concept. Even if somebody just sat in informationally, there's usually about 7 members of Coastside Allies, Nicholas, and CAL FIRE sometimes, it just depends. I think that you would be able to at least glean additional information about what kind of where the community is trying to push this, and you would definitely be welcomed in that meeting setting.
Thank you. Yeah. I love the idea of having a main street after.
Vendors are definitely very interested as well.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, moving on then to the update on Granada Community Park and Recreation Center project. Do you want us to go first? I know there's a memo you have as well.
Yeah, let me do mine first, pretty quick, because there's not a ton of updates other than just the reminder that next Thursday from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock will be the county's public workshop for the pre-application process. And this is sort of the final round of these workshops prior to putting in our application for the coastal development permit. It's not the last workshop, it's not the last chance for comments, but this will be the last one before we put in our application. So it's a good chance for people to come and hear about the project. There will be a full presentation and then an opportunity to ask questions, get clarification, give feedback. So that is from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and that's going to be at Ray Mueller's Coastside office. I believe all 5 of you are planning on attending, so we will make sure that that's noticed in a way so that you are able to be there and in discussion.
Thank you.
Yes. Once this is complete, are all our plans and documents ready to be submitted with our application? Everything's ready?
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, everything's ready, assuming there aren't changes based on this round of feedback.
Good, great news.
We've been teed up for a while, but then we had to go with the pre-application process. So
So if you notice the meeting, then we don't have to worry. Basically, it's a public meeting for us and we don't have to worry about following up on each other's comments and that sort of thing, right? We don't have a
Brown Act issue.
Brown Act.
we're gonna announce it as a public meeting for us,
Okay,
just to make it safe. It's just easier.
so we should wear our new badges.
I didn't wear mine tonight because I felt I had people.
Yes.
Okay, great. So a couple of months ago, we agreed to create an ad hoc committee with myself, Director Marsh and Hope, to, just continue to evaluate and discuss the issue relative to the proposed recreation center and the preschool, and this issue of whether or not we can have a preschool and et cetera. As a piggyback of the survey work that we did earlier this year. So tonight, what we have is something that was not added to the agenda, but will be posted online after this evening, or is it already online?
It's not, but I might go through it while we're sitting.
Okay. But it is just a brief memo that I put together, 3 pages here. There is absolutely nothing new in what's presented here. So this is all just a synthesis of the many documents and perspectives from legal, our counsel. And so just wanting to, basically synthesize it. We have new board members that aren't as familiar with this. We know that the community, those that are at the preschool and those just in general that are engaging in this conversation are not as close to it as we are. So it just felt like a good moment to just sort of pull everything together. I'm not going to drain these few pages, but I'll just highlight what's in here. So again, as a synthesis, I think one of the first things that we wanted to do was just clearly delineate for clarity purpose the difference between a licensed child care center or preschool under what's Title 22 regulated versus a non-licensed early child care program or childhood program, because there's a lot of kind of confusion, I think, on what the difference are between those two things, right? So Title 22 regulated is a designated space, a classroom that has requirements around, children being able to be dropped off at a facility with staff, without their parents present, and licensed by the state, right? And then a non-licensed center or program, or more like a mommy and me class, or things where there's always a guardian, always a parent present with the child in this space, and it's a multi-purpose space. So it's usually not. It's easy to flip over to be used for different things over the course of one day, right? So those are two very different, and not licensed obviously by the state, right, to do that. So there are two very different models. And then the next sort of section goes into various findings. So the first one is just about, what are the requirements in order to qualify for Title 22 or a licensed child care space. And then, Director Marsh did a tremendous amount of work.
Yes, she did.
In 2023 and 2022 and 1908, just kidding. Feels like it was less about age and more about duration of effort. But just she's been working tremendously hard to sort of pull all this together. So this really is a representative of a lot of her work. And so she spoke to Highlands Recreation Center, which is in San Mateo, and the Los Altos Community Center, just to understand both of those are facilities that have licensed preschools. And so just trying to understand how they thought about their centers and the capacity that they have in order to be able to provide the services that they do. So that's the second section. The third section is just sort of breaking down for our, rec center that we have planned, how much we're trying to accommodate within a rather small footprint, right? So we need to be able to have a building, we need parking setbacks, parking spaces that are shared, We need to have, multi-purpose rooms. So it was concluded in 22 that it would not make sense, it's not feasible to incorporate a small preschool into the size footprint that we have.
Licensed preschool.
A licensed preschool, based on the footprint that we have. That's just based on size. That's not taking into account some of the things I'll identify later. We also just ran a quick, illustrative example of if you did math, and you were trying to accomplish a Title 22 licensed preschool or childcare. I can't even remember all the language. Childcare center. We use Picasso's sort of at their fullest possible, right? 40 to 49 children as a benchmark. What would that require in square footage? And so technically, just again, based on size, we could use the largest room we are planning for the community rec center as the quote unquote preschool, but then that would mean the largest room we have planned for the community rec center would be dedicated to a preschool. But when you think about the outdoor requirements, it doesn't work, right? Because now you're looking at the amount of square footage per child that's required is just too extensive, right? It would take up a good percentage, about 10% of our total square footage outside. And so that would be all, a significant amount of the space that would be all that we have planned for the community to use in that space. And, Dr. Marsh raised a great point, which is that any structure greater than 18 inches tall counts towards lot coverage. So that means that if you have play structures, shade structures, fencing, all of that goes towards lot coverage, and we have lot coverage limitations, obviously, because of setbacks. So therefore, that diminishes or decreases again significantly the amount of space that we would be able to dedicate to the broader community if we were to try to do this. So that's just based on math, feasibility, numbers, space. But the real issue is number 5, which is LAFCO, right? So ultimately, we do not have a legal authority under LAFCO, which is what's given us this special district's name, right? To actually have childcare powers, right? And so, period, point blank, section 61100, does all of them plural, do not actually allow us to accommodate a childcare program. And it was raised by some of the parents over the course of many conversations that we could just contract with or subsidize to a third party to have that sort of outsource. That actually, under guidance from our council, is still not quote unquote legal, right? Because we would be funding and maintaining a childcare facility with taxpayer dollars. So that doesn't meet the requirements of NACO. And then lastly, sort of, 6, I think is, for me, most important, but I'm just a person of one, but we are representing a community. So if we thought about this just in that sense, we are committed to allocating our Parks and Recreation funding to, broad multi-generational benefit. And this is only serving a very smaller subset of the community. It's not sort of in line with our broader mandate. So if we were to go through all of these things to try to force fit a licensed preschool or childcare program into this facility, it would basically circumvent a huge portion of our community from accessing what they voted on and surveyed a number of times wanting to pay for, right? And so where it really comes down based on all the research is that a licensed facility is not feasible, it's not legal under our mandate. And that sort of flexible early childhood programming model is where we can go, where we'll be able to do things that would service families, young families, as well as the broader community as well. So that's just this summary. I don't know, and if I missed anything.
I think it's good to get it all in one place in a summary because it's been multiple conversations over 3 years.
Yeah.
And then multiple presentations, which I handed to Jen and she summarized into 3 pages, which is not my art.
Thank you. It's very clear, very straightforward. It's very helpful.
Yeah, if there's any questions, feel free. I know it's all. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for doing this and thank you to Nancy because I am aware, I was there at the time, of how much work she did to try to understand what our options were and no matter what we looked at.
Yeah, I was just joining the board and she was running all over town, other towns and over. Yeah. I will say I had the good fortune of going over the hill today, and interestingly enough, went over to Burlingame and went to the Washington Park and the rec center, not inside, but around the area. And it was so lovely. Like there were like grandparents with their kids. There was a man laying in the sun. There's people with their dogs sitting there. There was like, people playing on the pickleball court and the basketball court at the same time. They had like jerry-rigged it. It was just vibrant and noisy and beautiful. And it just gave me such great hope for what we're wanting to do. I was like, one day, one day we will have one.
Community hub.
Yeah.
Multi-generational.
Yeah. People were just sitting outside. Some people were coming out after yoga. I was with my dogs. It was just really lovely. So
I have a question.
yeah.
Being new to the table, the unlicensed model, if I was just, while you were giving the summary, I was thinking, what if a group wanted to hold an unlicensed childcare? What's the future vision for people signing up to reserve space? Like say they wanted it 3 days a week for 2 hours. How is it going to be shared by the
We
community?
haven't decided.
We don't really have an operating plan yet, so that's open. But that is exactly the model that Pacifica Recreation Center had. They had a parent-driven co-op preschool, unlicensed, and they had 3 days a week. There was, a room that they were using at Pacifica Rec Center. So it's typically, if you're going to have a co-op model, it's going to be in a public space like that. So it's certainly optional, and we will have a plan for how we allocate and rent space, but
With parents.
with parents, yes, absolutely, with parents or caregivers, they parent the child.
You just said rent space. People won't have to pay to use the facility, or will they?
No, there's not a rule yet. So we haven't, we're not charging people to use this space for the rental classes, where sometimes we might have event rentals because they raise money to pay for, if it's a party, if it's not related to recreation. But we haven't actually made any of those operational decisions yet. So you're here at a good time to make those kinds of decisions. Do we give it? Do we rent it? Do we take, Half Moon Bay takes a percentage of the revenue. So they don't pay for the space, but 30% of the revenue from the classes goes to the city.
Yes.
But we have funding that's fixed, and they have to sing for their funding every year. So we may actually have more options.
And just to clarify, when classes here, if the instructor is charging a fee, we do take a percentage. We take 30% is sort of what's in our contract, but with classes that are just starting, we're sort of starting that out at 10% because I want to make sure that it's actually valuable, has value to the instructor, and otherwise we would be taking too much. But if it's a group that's not charging to do something that's at the library, then we don't charge it.
And just a couple of sort of things that tie to what you're saying too as the next steps. One of the things that we're going to have in our next meeting is, Dr. Marshall's doing an analysis. One of the conversation points that we had that came out of the survey was, could we sell the land back? And so what would that look like if we sold the land back to somebody in the community? What's that process? So Dr. Marshall's doing that analysis, and she'll be sharing that during our next meeting. But then the piece that ties to kind of what you're asking, we also talked about yesterday, the desire and need to create a future vision for what is possible, right? So it's to get out of sort of this like mindset or negativity around like all the things we're losing and the fears we have and the concerns, and build a collective community vision around what we want this to be for our community. And so as part of this ad hoc, we're going to be creating some, for lack of a better word, focus groups that are really focused on discrete demographic, the skater group, the outdoorsy people, right? The younger families, the seniors, and basically have some small conversations with them around, future vision, so that we can come back with one big, beautiful picture of what's possible, and rally and organize around that versus sort of a more divisive, I would say, way of thinking about what's coming. So we haven't asked for you to eventually, so don't worry. Helping us get some community members to join the conversations. Yeah.
From as Jen described the visit to Burlingame, I think Barbara and I were there before it opened.
And I've been there many times.
The centers that I visited, I just grabbed all of their programming lists, just, to get a better sense for myself of their constituents. And it is seniors, teens, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, clubs, and little kids and, parent and me programs or little kid art code programs. So we'll go steal a few more programs to get some ideas to at least start that operating vision of what benefit this could bring to the community. But in this community, we have so many interesting people, even amongst the 30% that are 60 or older. There's NASA scientists, there's foreign relations experts, there's people who could share, their life and their expertise. So you can really, I learned this actually at one of the ones I went to, you can really reach into your community and see what's there and bring it out to the whole community. So we'll do some more visits and bring more ideas for that big plan, but a really better narrative.
Yeah. I'm also excited about the outside gathering areas. Out of the wind, if the building will protect them, behind. One of the visions is the idea with maybe a little bit of shade and some, those tables that they put on the lawns, places where people can sit and talk. They'll have new Wi-Fi, and so people will gather there and have a picnic or have a book group and so forth. This will be a place to do all those community things. I love the idea of bringing back the excitement.
Mm-hmm. Or even music in the park.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be nice?
I want to bring big art.
I know. I don't think it's big as Burning Man, but I just wanted to remind you have the speaker.
I have the speaker.
Community.
Oh, sorry, yes. Yes, I know, yes. I just, any other comments from the board?
thank you for your work.
All right. And so now we're going to open up to community, and we have one person that is here who would like to share, Frederick Anderson.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm a resident of El Granada, and I want to start off by commending you all for working on what really is a feel-good project that will inure to the benefit of El Granada and its citizens for years to come, if not forever. But I'd like to just say, and I know it's not going to be super well received, there's something that would be of even greater benefit at this time, and it's probably of more urgency than what we're talking about today. And I would love to see GCSD acquire the harbor lot that they're planning on using as a parking lot, what they call an overflow parking lot for the harbor, which they have not ever needed. It's really just going to be a parking lot for Sam's. And I would much rather see El Granada be known as a little community as opposed to an overflow parking lot for Sam's. So if it would mean putting some portion of the plan on a back burner in order to generate enough money to get the harbor to sell it to us, and I know that's a big if, but really their biggest argument for being able to build this is that it will generate income for them from Sam's, like $100,000 a year income. Well, so would the interest off money if we were to buy that property and hold that property ourselves. We should actually look at buying as much of Burnham Strip as possible. But that would really inure to the benefit of El Granada and its citizens far, far greater. I mean, we can always build the park. We can always build a rec center. We can always come back when the money's there and do something with it. But if we don't have the land, it's going to be too late. So I don't know if there's any way we can make that happen. I know that if you do, they'll probably name the park after you all, El Granada. But that's really something I hope you all consider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm hoping actually if their plans fall through, because I haven't seen a community member yet who's saying, yay, let's do that. That even Open Space Trust could buy it, just to keep it open space, which is, I think, what the community down at that end really wants to see.
Well, I mean, we could incorporate it into the whole park plan at some point in time.
It's just half a mile away.
Well, it's coming closer and closer every day.
Yeah, when I mentioned earlier that there was a parcel available, it was right next to the preschool. Those are privately owned between us and the house. They're all privately owned.
There aren't going to be parking lots put in there, I'm sure.
No.
Oh, and crosswalk going across Highway 1, which is going to reroute everyone, which already, as soon as traffic backs up on Highway 1, it's going to reroute everyone through Avenue Alhambra, through El Granada. It's going to be bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
It will really impact El Granada in a very negative way.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yes, go ahead, Kevin.
It's really nice to not have to stoop over to speak, by the way. I just want to say that echoing that sentiment, totally against the parking lot. And if there was any way possible for you to acquire that land and keep it as open space or have the open space trust acquire it, that would be great. I know that you guys are coming up to a pre-application thing, and I want to just say that a lot of work has been done by former board members. I know Barbara has championed the community center herself and done a lot of tough lifting, as has Nancy, and I've been working with both of them as a community member. And for this portion, I'm speaking as a community member, not as a representative of the MCC or Coastside Allies. I think that Jen brings up a very good point about a generational change for this community, something about shared equitable spaces that isn't here right now. The idea of bringing in space for silver surfers, but for young kids to also have, mommy and me playtime, and dog walkers who just want a place to, go and sit and, maybe have a coffee and catch up with a friend. That is something that will be multi-generational, lasting effects that will do so many things in terms of community, but also small businesses. Bringing in the desire to want to be here is super critical. Also, equity in our homes. I'm really tired of people telling me that I shouldn't feel the import of the equity in my home growing. I bought my home probably for a lot more than people who have lived here for, as they say, 30, 40 years or their whole lives. But that doesn't negate a member of this community being here for a day, a week, a month, or years, or their entire lifetime. Within that, there is this amazing tapestry of uniqueness and diversity. Maybe not as diverse as we would like to see, but I hope that we create this space with the idea that we are welcoming to all. And I want to commend every member of this board who's doing a lot of heavy lifting. If there's any way that I can provide to you support via a letter, so a letter is circulating. There's a couple hundred signatures in favor of moving forward with the planning. These are just people who can't make it to your meetings. The people who have complaints or want to change something, they always seem to find time to show up. And I just want to create an opportunity for the people who have voted in favor multiple times now to see this project move forward. I personally have gone and knocked on doors for this as well. So I would like to know if I can present that to you prior to that meeting and have that be counted as public input, just as much as a speaker who is here in the room. They will be e-signed, they will be vettable, they will be, linked to your ecology list that you have. So e-sign is a way to vet people as they're signing.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your
Yeah.
work, Kevin. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Any other comments on this item? All right. Anyone on this? I said any other comments on them? Sorry, on this room, on Zoom. Nope. Okay, seeing as there are none, then let's move on to the review of ecology rate increase for 2026. Thank you. Very much.
Well, you want to take it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll take it. So starting in January every year is when the ecology rates go up. As you can see in the memo, we alternate between index-based and cost-based increases. And this year is an index-based. Last year we had a cost-based, which was, I would have to look back throughout the history, but I feel like the cost-based years tend to be a little more than the index-based years. So this year comes out at 3.95%, which is pretty in line with the economy. So I would say at this point that that would be an expected amount. Last year, they were initially proposing about 10.25%, and we pushed back and got them down to 6%, which is
In the contract.
Yeah.
As a cap.
Yeah, so it's index-based this year, next year it'll be index-based again, and then we'll actually be getting close to looking back at the franchise agreement. So
Even in cost-based years, they're capped at 6%.
Yes.
Yeah.
we can cap them if we ask for the cap.
Okay.
I mean, the only big surge we had was with the gas prices, really.
Then they came back
That
down.
was
They're
understandable.
negative
Huh?
Negative this year.
analysis, yeah.
Right.
Well, I think it's a very interesting process, actually, the way, the alternating cost index, and it seems very logical and makes sense to me.
And they actually run a tight ship. And they've always treated us well.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, they're not handing out 12% raises to their people and whatnot. It's all very reasonable. It's
And
tough
they're
for
not
us to check
stressed.
some of the stuff, obviously.
Yeah. And they're not on strike, like in Half Moon Bay.
Right. But it's nice. I mean, it feels, they feel like a small company serving their community. They're, if I have an issue, I want to ask about how many cars can drop off at a recycling event, I get a response right away. And, not only do I get a response, he actually just stopped by the office and talked to me about it in person. So it's that sort of community-based.
And it's a huge company, but it's a small subset that I work with. Yeah.
And they still feel that way. I mean, Chris Porter, I don't know how you
I remember her. She was great.
was there 20 years and just treated us well. She was local. She was back when her boss Louis owned whatever the heck that Seaside. Thank you. Right.
One question, as I recall, the trash cans that are on kind of where the slurry is going in now, go over there, Recology maintains those for us, even though it's not required by their contract.
Correct.
And so this is something extra that they do for us. I think people should know that the Recology is
Yes.
doing things that are not part of their contract that are helpful to our community.
Not only those, but there are also a number of trash cans around Princeton by the beach that they pick up for us. And they even pick up the one that is technically in Half Moon Bay at the south end of the new Miramar Bridge, where the county put in a pet station, but then they didn't have a way to actually maintain that station. So we fill up the Mutnet station, and Recology picks the trash.
Ecology picks up all of our waste stations and all of the median stations. Yeah.
And they're also fantastic. If somebody calls here, and it happens fairly frequently, somebody will call and say, a couch got dumped on the corner of Portola or something like that. We call them and they go and pick it up within a day, and they're not charging us or charging anyone to do that. They just do it because we have this.
And Glenn had really picked up right after.
Yeah, first we shame them on next door and then we.
Right. Any other questions for Hope on this? All right, any questions from the community? We have no one in the room, so anyone on Zoom? All right, so then seeing there are no questions, do we have a motion? We have to take a motion?
No, this is just for board information over. Yeah.
All right, next up, engineer.
So John Rayner has given us his engineer's report. We put a couple meetings on the CIP. We're going through the sections of the CIP that we're going to CCTV now, just to make sure that sometimes we get some stuff where it says it's a 1920 sewer and it turns out it's been replaced 15 years ago. So it's worth it to go through and CCTV it. And so Hope and I are working on that to try and get that resolved, but we're progressing on that. So that's the good news.
It's going to be some must-see TV.
It's what?
It's going to be some must-see TV.
We hired an intern once to view all the lines. And I was like, that'll kill his ardor for engineering for the rest of his life.
Well, those lines went in 1908, 1906, not 1920, as I keep saying.
You're going to have to point that out to me on the map.
Well, Christensen, the guy who, did it, they put in all those things before they sold lots.
Right.
And they were very proud of what they did. So that's one thing. What's the other? We had a requirement to CCTV all of the lines within a certain distance from the shore that was imposed by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Is that getting folded into this effort?
Well, first off, that's a good memory. And secondly, we actually just talked to Kennedy Jenks about that this summer because I think we had a 5-year window where we had to do a certain section. You don't have to CCTV everything, but you have to identify what are the hot spots that could possibly, they did a basin plan amendment and they said, basically you have to look at all the sewer mains within a half mile of the coast. Well, that's nuts. If we have a spill a half mile from the coast, it's not getting into the ocean. And basically all of our lines are within a half mile of the coast. So we brought that to KJ's attention and we're going to address that as well.
And let me just say one more thing, which is in the SAM manager's report. I always look at the report from collections, which does all the maintenance for all the systems on the whole coast side. And month after month, GCSD, no calls.
Yeah.
So we should be proud of that.
Well, and I was telling Hope that she was surprised. 10 years ago, we had 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 spills a year.
Wow.
So they've not big spills, but still spills. So they've done a great job.
We haven't had a spill since, I suppose, that gigantic rainstorm a few years ago. We had
Just like
manholes, but I think that's
Well,
it.
don't mistake the manhole as spills because of Portola and all that. That the sand comes out. Yeah.
Oh, that's Sam's.
Yeah.
That's not ours.
Right.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the board? Any on the Zoom? All right, then let's move to Sam.
Let me just give a report on one thing that's just happened. It was interesting. Yesterday, they said they shut the entire SAM facility down. They disconnected from electric systems and they, pretty much turned everything off so that they could move a switch from one cabinet that was falling apart to another and had to turn everything off, which meant that they were holding all of the wastewater flow from Montera and Granada, keeping it from going into the plant. And they finished at 11 o'clock last night and it all went really well, very smoothly. It's done. They had to have the water quality control board required them to have a backup generator for every service. And so since they were not connected to PG&E, they needed 2 generators. So they had to rent this giant, like a cargo container sized generator that's sitting there, not being used, costing, I'm sure, a fortune to sit there. And then as you walk around the plant to look at the things that were going on, there were like little generators here and little generators there to run the key systems so that the plant was not having problems. So that was pretty impressive. I don't know who wants to do the SAM report. If you want to do the actual SAM report.
Not just to add on, I asked patients because there are wet weather storage tanks, located up in Montera and located on the Burnham Strip. So, but I asked him what happens. So that takes care of a significant amount of the wastewater that's coming from the north when they shut that off. But what do they do with the wastewater coming from the south, which is more than?
Oh, they were processing it. Yeah.
Yeah, they fill up the one of the unused aeration basins was a temporary storage facility for them. So I was glad to see I just wondered what happens. You can't shut it all off because they don't have tanks. There's no tanks south of I don't want to say who owns it or not. No tanks south of the plant to store water.
Yeah, no, all the when they closed, swallow was coming in and had to put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of interesting. And then not a lot else is going on at SAM right now. We're having an issue. Nancy can weigh in on this about. It's the issue that I've been fighting about for 6 years, but the notion of multi-year projects and how the funding is tracked. Because we pay money in 1 year for a project and it doesn't get finished. Or a project goes over budget in 1 year and needs more funding. And so we're working on that. I don't know that we want to get into a big discussion of it tonight, but Nancy's on it. I'm on it. I think we're going to make some progress on it.
Yeah, we'll have an item next meeting. So we don't need to go deep into this one.
It's been interesting to I had a one-on-one hour and a half with Kishan and George to learn how they track the money that we fund for projects. So I can.
And one last thing, which is they just did the annual inspection of the ocean outfall. It's one of the things that we need to realize exists. At least it's like one of those things you forget about. But one of the reasons that the plant was located there is because the outfall from the existing Ontario plant was going into the newly designated Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. So the outfall there, it takes all the, stuff that the water's been cleaned and then, chlorinated, and then the chlorine's taken out of it, and then they send it out into the ocean. And they had to repair a couple of pieces of it. And if you want to see a piece of the outfall, they have it down there at the sand plant.
If you go on the tour, ask to see the meeting room because it's there. I found that really interesting.
Yeah,
And if you want to see how it works, because I thought, it's a pipe that goes out and everything comes out at the end of the pipe. But every 6 feet, there's a vertical pipe with a little flange on it that the water comes out and it sprays it so it diffuses.
Yeah.
So all along the pipe, every 6 feet, a little bit more comes out. It's not all in one place. And Michelle Dragony just posted on Coastside Buzz the video that we looked at during the link to the video we looked at the MCC meeting. It was actually kind of interesting to see how it all is. The only other thing I would add that happened the last couple of months is we finished the GM's review, which frequently is done late, but we are getting it onto a schedule that is now aligned rather than with his contract date. It's aligned with the budget year, the fiscal year, so that the review will be tied more to achieving what we're supposed to achieve in the year, including projects as well as making the budget. That's it.
Yeah.
Is that your influence?
That could have been my influence. The operations committee worked on this thing.
Okay, great. So then let's move on to consent agenda. The August 21 regular meeting minutes. Any changes or alterations, amendments?
I can read them in. Okay, so Director Marsh did have a couple of clarifications. Let's see. In the item number 2, update on Granada Community Park and Recreation Center project. In the next to last section there, she would like us to rewrite that to say Director Marsh reiterated the variety of public agencies that are in communication in their respective projects, notwithstanding sentiments expressed at the MCC meeting. Director Marsh also disagreed with the idea that residents outside of the Granada district should have influence over the park plan since it will be paid for by district taxpayers. So that was for that section.
And originally it said El Granada, but it's not just El Granada, it's the district.
Mm-hmm. And then on the report on Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side, just that, and the next to last sentence, she noted that the gravity portion of these pipes, as opposed to saying since the gravity portion of these pipes, the gravity portion of these pipes was insignificant in relation to the pipeline length of the combined systems. And that was the only change on that last one.
The original sentence said there was no action taken since the gravity portion is
okay, there's another part.
was insignificant, but it's actually no action was taken because there was a motion made with a tie vote. So there was no action. It was neither agreed nor disagreed.
Right.
And this was in relation to the I&I potential for that small section.
We need to vote to accept these minute notes.
You can accept the consent calendar with those amendments,
I'm in approval of the consent agenda.
Great.
with those amendments.
Yes, as amended.
Second.
Third.
I was waiting to let the new guys do.
You're gonna just call all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Committee reports. Any reports on seminars, conferences, or committee meetings? All right. And information calendar, attorney's report,
No report.
general manager report,
Nothing further.
administrative staff report. And future agenda items.
We
They're
will
listed
talk,
there.
yeah, we'll talk about the holiday events, so I think Society Allies will probably come, and if that's okay with the board, we'll actually have an agenda item so that you can have a few minutes to talk about that. Great.
Could we talk about the idea of recreation, community recreation? Committee?
And then Director Marsh is gonna talk about that.
Yeah, the next meeting I will have the implications of land sale, the special district.
Okay, great. So with that, we will adjourn to closed session. It is 8:20. Meeting's adjourned.
We're adjourning to closed session.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Adjourned to closed session.
Yeah, it's one item, litigation.
So I need to say, yes, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, Half Bay versus Granada Community in Montero. All right.